Now that we have successfully tested our connections, we have added 2 database connections for the production environment. Next, we move on to creating a test. We go to our test library. Here we can see several tests already added. We will add a new test called the Query Runner test. This is one of 3 test types available, and it is the most versatile and easiest to use. Our goal is to validate the customer table in our database, so we name this test Validate Records Loaded in SRC Customer. We can add a description and specify a timeout. This helps stop the test if it takes too long, which acts as a simple performance check. In our database, we select the lakehouse we added earlier. We select from the customer table. Our expected type is a number, and we expect it to be greater than 0. To make sure we have written it correctly, we can test the test here. As we can see, it is successful in the production environment. Now, we go ahead and create this basic test. Once created, we can see it here. If we want, we can also add it to test sets. These are logical groupings that make running the test later easier. We create a new test set. There are already several tests available, but we create a new one called Demo. We add the test we just created. There it is. Now, we create a more advanced test to explore more options. We can either edit as a copy or add another test. This new test is called Validate Source to Warehouse. While a description is not required, it can be helpful for future reference. For the source of this test, we select our base. Instead of selecting a string or something else, we select a query. Here, we validate against the same database. For example, we select count star from customer. This can be copied and pasted here. Now, the expectation is that they will be equal since the test database is the same as the actual database. We run the test. As expected, they are equal since it is the same database. However, we can also select a different warehouse or database. For example, we select the sample warehouse. If we run the test now, it fails, because this table does not exist in our source database. To fix this, we add the correct schema. After running the test again, we can see that we have successfully tested against 2 different warehouses and tables. Here we have the customer table, and here we have the same customer table, but on a different database. Now, we create and add a description. We also want to add this to a test set. So, we go to our second test set and select it. If we want to run these tests, we click on Release and Dequeue. This checks that the tests work. Now, we use them within our November release. Clicking on our November release, we notice it is empty. Next, we click on the test plan, where we can see all the tests available from our project. These are test sets, which we can expand to see their contents. Here are the 2 new tests we created. To manage our view, we use the filters at the top. We can choose to only see the test sets or to include the tests. We can also clear these filters if we want. These are stacking filters, so we can apply more than one at a time. For example, if we only want to include sets, we can do that. We click on this small plus icon. There we have it. It now shows 1 object included. This means that for the November release in our test plan, we have included 1 object, which is this one right here. We can then click here to add an execution, or we could do it from the Executions tab. We can add an execution, and here we can see the execution plan, along with the test set that we have added. We continue by clicking Next. We can then select the environment. Running it on either of these will not work, as we have not set up any environments for System Integration Testing, SIT, or User Acceptance Testing, UAT. But this is how we select where we want our test to run. Optionally, we can set a schedule if we want the test to run at a specific time. But for now, we will not schedule it. We just create it. So, we click on the Create button, and there it ran. We can then click on this to see that the test was successful. Now, we continue. This is how we create tests and run an execution in ToTest.